Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Tyson Fury's exhibition at the end of October against Francis Ngannou is going to have a stacked and stuffed heavyweight undercard. In fact, it's going to be all heavyweights. Well, at least from what's been announced so far. So several fights to talk through that have been officially announced now. One or two that we knew, like as you can see on screen, Wardley versus Adeleye, but I haven't commented on it, so I will drop a few thoughts. But I'll just quickly go through the press release and a few thoughts for each, because close to the time I'll do a bit more of a detailed breakdown for each. But I like some of these fights. Others, I think it's kind of, they look good in terms of records, but, maybe they're not going to be as competitive as some people think. But Wardley versus Adeleye, which is one that has previously been announced when there was the press conference and there was a scuffle between Adeleye and Wardley's teams, and you did have Wardley getting a cut on his face. So whether that hinders him in the build-up to this one, we'll have to wait and see. But the press release says, Night of the Giants just got bigger. All heavyweight undercard to support Fury and Ngannou super fight in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So what we do have is Joseph Parker versus Simon Kean, Arslanbek Makhmudov versus Argon Smakici, Moses Itauma is going to be on the card as well, as we know, Wardley versus Adeleye. That will not be for the British heavyweight title, which Wardley does hold. That has not been put on the line there. So I guess if it's interesting, that fight, and it's competitive and close and demands a rematch, maybe they could do it back in the UK. But there is another fight that's quite curiously you don't have in this press release, which we'll get to, people's comments and stuff, is another one that has been added, which is part of Frank Warren's posting up on social media on his Instagram, is Martin Bakole and Carlos Takam. So whether that hasn't been put in the press release because you've got Bakole being a Sky fighter and maybe he's been lent out here, but the fact that he signed a deal to Sky and now he's going over to fight on some random card in the Middle East exhibition, it does make you wonder what Sky really has for Bakole, because seemingly at the moment, not much. But in terms of some of the quotes, so you have Wardley saying, where are we here? I've got a clean bill of health. Nothing has changed. I'm still feeling strong, moving hard and hitting new numbers. I don't know how to quantify my desire to win by knockout has increased after what happened. And he's talking about that press conference incident where, there was the kickoff press conference and that whole fracas with Adelaye's team happened. But what happened? But yes, substantially, massively, because I'm a professional person. I like to act like a professional. But if you want to go early, then that's fine. I'm ready to go at any minute. When those situations occur, all it does is fuel the fire more. All you have done is made it worse for yourself. You've made me train harder. You've made me work hard. Or you've made me work for it more. You've made me want it more. Did he just say basically the same thing across 3 different paragraphs? I think he did. So you've got Adeleye saying, I'm really looking forward to competing on the global stage in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Everywhere I go, people are talking about this fight. I intend to put on a show and display why I'm the best young heavyweight out there. Well, I don't think he's really in the conversation for the best young heavyweight out there. Maybe within the UK he's being talked about to some extent, but worldwide there's certainly some other guys that are garnering more attention. But it is an intriguing fight, and for the simple fact you've got a guy in Wardley who's looked good in flashes, but then he's had some guys that have, taken blatant dives and wanted out at different points in his fight. But then he's sometimes been, slow to switch on, and it's taken a few shots, in a few fights where he's had to get hit before he's actually, like the Molina one and also the Nathan Gorman one, before he's come back and actually done some damage and taken his opponents out. And with Adeleye, you've had a situation where it's been a little bit of a slow burn. He looked pretty raw, didn't look that great in some of the earlier fights. He did lose to Kamil Sokolowski a few years back. No one can tell me otherwise. And he was delusional about the way that he saw that fight. He didn't throw hardly any punches. But the thing is, he has been improving. He's changed his training situation. He went out to America and he's been looking better. But, knocking over Dimitri Bezic is one thing. but then obviously taking a step up against Fabio Wardley is another. So we're going to see where both these guys are really at this stage in their career. And a loss for either, it's not terminal either. So moving on to Joseph Parker and Simon Kean. So Parker says, I'm looking forward to being back in Saudi Arabia. It was great the last time I was there to support another fighter and boxing event. This time I'm going to take care of business in my own fight against a tough challenge in Simon Kean. It is fantastic to be on this card and to be part of this major event. My preparations are on point and there is not long to go now. And Simon Kean says, this is the moment all fighters dream of their whole career. This is what I've been working for and asking for. It's time to deliver. And I have seen quite a few Joseph Parker fans say that this is a competitive fight, but I hate to break it to you, it is not. Simon Kean is the master of disaster. He is effectively David Price reincarnated. You know, he can be having success and then lurch to disaster the next second. Simon Kean is a glass cannon. He will get knocked out in this one. And we do have a comparison point. You had Shaundale Winters face Joseph Parker, who bullied him and took him out. And Simon Kean went life and death with him, was on the canvas, and he, was pretty close to getting taken out on that one. But ultimately, he came back and ended up winning that fight. But I have confidence in saying, even though Parker's not a real puncher at world level, he's going to take Simon Kean out. So you've also got another Canadian-based fighter, Arslanbek Makhmudov. He is going to be facing Argon Smakici. So Smakici came off a relatively controversial fight with Agi Kabayel not so long ago, where he dropped Kabayel. He just went for it and absolutely sort of let the kitchen sink and everything else go. Drops him, and it looked like the referee was about to wave it off, but he doesn't. Then he gives Kabayel a count, and the extra seconds helped. So you had a situation, Smakici ended up, basically, he blew his gasket, he was out of gas, he ended up being taken out, the next round? I mean, nothing left. So you had a case where Smakici was pretty raw about that. I think Smakici probably will approach this fight with Makhmudov a little bit the same way, except Makhmudov is pretty durable. He will eat some shots to basically get his own work away. So I think this could end up being an exciting fight, but it's only got 2 or 3 rounds written on it, full stop. I think Smakici will just go for it, he'll land, and Makhmudov will just walk through his punches to take him out. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended in the first round. I'm sort of picking maybe the second, but we'll see. I think for however long it lasts, it will be exciting. And then if we go to this other one, you've got Martin Bakole versus Carlos Takam. Got a reference point here as well. Both these guys have fought Tony Yoka in the recent distant past. So Bakole, as we know, put a beating on Tony Yoka, and Yoka just put all his tools away and basically went into survival mode. Carlos Takam, it was more of a boxing effort, but a little bit of a similar sort of situation. You didn't have Tony Yoka going for broke near the end when it was clearly a fight that Carlos Takam was winning. And maybe Yoka thought the judges were going to help him out, but they didn't. So you've got a case, there's a recent sort of data point between them, common opponent. I think Martin Bakole, especially with Arslanbek Makhmudov having fought Carlos Takam and just put it on him, dropped him a few times, and ultimately ended up getting the win there, but it was a close competitive fight. I think Bakole needs to try to separate himself from some of these other guys that he's sometimes lumped in with, in terms of like a Makhmudov, Sanchez, the who needs him club. He needs to be able to sort of put on a dominant performance and go, see, look what I can do. I am one of the big punchers in the heavyweight division. I'm dangerous. Give me respect. Give me a big fight. So we'll see what happens. But with Carlos Takam, if he can get to the inside, if he can make it awkward, I think he can take some rounds from Bakole, make it tough. I mean, I always remember that Sergey Kuzmin fight. Bakole from the outside, with his long punches dominated. As soon as it was up close and more in Kuzmin's territory, Bakole didn't look as comfortable, and it was certainly more competitive. So I'm expecting, this is going to be competitive in spots, but picking Bakole to win. And as we've also got on the card, young Moses Itauma, 18 years old. They're not going to give him anyone good. It's a showcase opportunity. It's going to be someone that they'll just wheel off, that have dusted off from street sweeping earlier that day, and he will get a knockout. It'll be early in the night. He just needs to go in there, do his job. He's just working through camps and, being a professional, 18 years old. It's all ahead of him. They don't need to rush him, but at the same time, don't tell us what he is and what he isn't and all that sort of stuff while throwing him the worst opponents, that sort of thing. So I think they just need to try to just dampen down some expectations, because if he's not going to fight anyone meaningful for a few years, I think they just need to sort of tie-ho at least on some of the expectation that they're trying to create. Because as soon as he sort of stepped up and faced a really durable journeyman in Konstantin Doboshenko, couldn't stop him, obviously some people started to take a dump on him, and I don't necessarily think that's fair to the 18-year-old. So, I mean, the matchmaking, they've got to be careful with that, and, how much hyperbole they're putting on the hype. But what do you make of this undercard? I can't say I'm enamored with the main event, but the reason you put a strong undercard on is because for a pay-per-view event is, super strong like this in terms of the heavyweights, the big boys, all that stuff, they generally cost more money as well, is one, you're worried about the quality of the main event, or you're not sure about how the sales will do. I don't necessarily think this undercard helps the sales per se, but I do think that the quality of the fights will certainly, if the main event is lopsided, people will go, at least it was a decent card. Anyway, what do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.